Sydney Stevens was tragically found on July 25, 2010, 6 days after her disappearance. Her body was discovered by two fishermen in Boku Creek in Pinckneyville, Illinois. This horrifying development marked a turning point in the investigation, shifting the search from a missing person case to a homicide investigation. Sydney Stevens, a teenager, was 15 years old at the time of her disappearance and tragic death in 2010. As a bright and active young girl, Sydney enjoyed a variety of outdoor activities, including fishing and four-wheeling, indicative of a spirited and adventurous personality. Her childhood, as gleaned from the narrative, seems to have been filled with the typical joys and pursuits of youth, marked by a close bond with her family, especially her older sister Dakota. However, beneath the surface of these ordinary joys, Sydney's life was complicated by family dynamics and personal struggles. The unraveling of her family's stability, particularly when her parents divorced, profoundly affected Sydney. Learning that her father was not her biological father added another layer of emotional turmoil for her, contributing to a sense of displacement and identity crisis. This revelation not only affected Sydney, but also would have impacted Dakota, potentially altering her sense of family stability and her relationship with her sister. Dakota Wall, Sydney Stevens' older sister, was 18 years old at the time of Sydney's disappearance in 2010. As siblings growing up in Pinckneyville, Illinois, Dakota and Sydney shared many aspects of a typical childhood, filled with outdoor activities like fishing and four-wheeling, which were part of the family's life. Their early years were likely marked by the close companionship that often characterizes sisterly relationships, especially in families with a strong emphasis on outdoor and communal activities. As they entered adolescence, the relationship between Dakota and Sydney began to show strains typical of siblings during teenage years, compounded by the family's ongoing struggles. Conflicts over personal space, belongings, and responsibilities are common in sibling relationships, but were likely intensified in their case by the underlying tensions within their family and Sydney's mental health issues. Despite these challenges, Dakota maintained a social life outside her immediate family, including a relationship with her boyfriend, Chad. He was a leader of a local gang. He had a friend called Carl Dane who had dated Sydney for a while before she ended the relationship. Dakota's friendships and romantic relationships, particularly with Chad, shed light on her search for stability and acceptance amidst the turmoil of her family life. Sydney kept the stories of her relationship in a journal. One day, Dakota found the journal and was hurt by what she read. Apparently, Sydney had written about having a romantic affair with Chad. As tensions within the family and Dakota's resentment towards Sydney grow, a sinister plot begins to take shape. The group's intentions are masked by the facade of teenage rebellion, yet their actions are anything but typical adolescent mischief. Dakota, betraying her sister's trust, plays a pivotal role in the plan, ensuring access to their home on the fateful night. July 19, 2010. As the night fell, the group would have begun to gather, finalizing their roles and reconfirming the plan. Dakota's actions during this time would have been critical, ensuring the patio door was unlocked to provide the others access to the Stevens home. The conspirators, including Carl Dane and two others, would have made their way to the Stevens residence, utilizing the darkness to approach undetected. The three boys drove to the bridge, and Dane shot Sydney 2 to 4 times. They then dumped her body into the river. They would later return and tie the body to a cement block to weigh it down. Under the cover of darkness, the conspirators set their plan into motion. Utilizing the unlocked door facilitated by Dakota, they enter the Stevens home, where Sydney sleeps, unaware of the impending betrayal. The events that follow are a chilling execution of their plot, culminating in Sydney's murder, a senseless act of violence that forever alters the course of multiple lives. In the aftermath, the facade begins to crumble as the investigation into Sydney's disappearance intensifies. Piece by piece, the involvement of Dakota, Carl Dane, and the others comes to light, revealing the depth of their betrayal. The community reels in horror as the details of the crime are exposed, grappling with the realization that such evil was born from within their midst. Sydney Stevens was tragically found on July 25, 2010, 6 days after her disappearance. Her body was discovered by two fishermen in Boku Creek in Pinckneyville, Illinois. This horrifying development marked a turning point in the investigation, shifting the search from a missing person case to a homicide investigation. The discovery in the creek was both shocking and heart-wrenching for the community, and especially for Sydney's family, who had been holding on to hope for her safe return. The location where Sydney was found, face down in the water, indicated the heinous nature of the crime committed against her. It was a stark and grim revelation that brought the reality of her fate into sharp focus. Carl Dane's involvement in the crime was significant, as he was among those who planned and carried out the act leading to Sydney's death. His actions post-relationship with Sydney indicate a deeply troubling response to personal conflict, culminating in a heinous act of violence. Investigators began by interviewing family members, friends, and acquaintances to piece together Sydney's last known movements and identify any potential conflicts or issues that might have led to her disappearance and murder. The crime scene and Sydney's body underwent a thorough forensic examination. While specific details about the forensic evidence collected are not provided, such evidence typically includes DNA, fingerprints, and any signs of struggle or injury that could lead to suspects. The case experienced a significant breakthrough when the individuals involved began to confess or accuse each other of participation in the crime. These confessions and accusations likely provided detailed accounts of the planning and execution of Sydney's murder, directly implicating Carl Dane and outlining his role. Armed with evidence from forensic analysis, witness testimony, and the confessions of those involved, law enforcement arrested Carl Dane. He, along with others implicated in the crime, was charged and brought to trial. During the legal proceedings, the evidence collected during the investigation was presented, including any confessions, forensic evidence, and testimony from witnesses and co-conspirators. Carl Dane's role in the murder was laid bare, leading to his conviction. Carl Dane was convicted for his role in the murder of Sydney Stevens and received a significant prison sentence for his crimes. Specifically, Carl Dane was sentenced to 60 years in prison, reflecting the gravity of his actions and the tragic loss of Sydney Stevens. This sentence aimed to serve justice for the heinous act committed and provide some measure of closure to Sydney's family and the community shaken by this crime. However, before Carl Dane could be transferred to a state prison to serve his sentence, he was found dead in his jail cell, an apparent suicide. This development added another layer of tragedy to an already heartbreaking case, closing the legal chapter on his involvement in Sydney Stevens' murder without the opportunity for further legal or restorative actions that might have come from his time in prison. Dakota Wall, involved in the tragic case surrounding her sister Sydney Stevens' murder, faced legal consequences for her role. She pleaded guilty to charges related to the crime as part of a plea agreement. As a result, Dakota Wall was sentenced to 26 years in prison. This sentence came after prosecutors dropped more severe charges, including murder, in exchange for her guilty plea to the lesser charge of home invasion. This plea agreement and subsequent sentencing reflect the legal system's effort to hold individuals accountable for their involvement in criminal activities, especially in cases involving significant betrayal and violence within a family. Dakota's sentence aimed to address her participation in the events leading to her sister's tragic death, while also considering the complexities of her involvement and the potential for rehabilitation. In the wake of this deeply moving story, we invite you to join us in a crucial conversation about prevention, awareness, and the power of community support in combating manipulation and violence. Share your thoughts, experiences, or messages of support in the comments below. Let's create a space of understanding and healing where we can collectively contribute to making a positive change. Respond, share, and act. Your voice matters. Share this story to raise awareness, and if you or someone you know is in need of help, don't hesitate to seek support. Together, we can make a difference. Comment below. How can we as individuals and communities work to prevent tragedies like this? What steps can we take to support those in need? Remember, your engagement can be a beacon of hope for someone in need. Like, share, and subscribe to join us in this vital conversation. Together, let's build a safer, more supportive world for all.